Hello, my name's Ajay and you're watching The Defining Moment for Creating the Culture of Conscience. Today we're very pleased to welcome Dr. Sami Kent. Dr. Kent was born in Turkey in 1939 and came to London in 1961. After graduating from both Birmingham and London universities, he went on to work on a North Sea oil rig. Returning to London in 1978, he became the founder and principal of the Oxford House College, and later the sole proprietor of the Kent Hotel here in London. Currently, he is the writer and producer of an exciting new musical called The Heart of Anatolia, which has ambitions to go on stage in the West End next year. Dr. Kent, thank you so much for joining us on The Defining Moment.
Pleasure.
Well, today's topic is about the melting pot of cultures. And before we do get into that topic, can you please share with us a defining moment from your life?
Probably the defining point was passing a European examination in Turkey in 1960. Many thousands of people entered this examination, and only they were going to send 5 students to Europe on a scholarship. I was one of the lucky 5. And I came to this country. First, I had a geology degree at Birmingham University, then moved to London Imperial College. I had a DIC diploma of Imperial College diploma on petroleum geology. Then I also did a PhD again in petroleum geology. Because I had 3 diplomas in petroleum geology and geology, etc., I started working in the North Sea oil rigs as a petroleum geologist. Afterwards, I felt more as an educationist. Then I thought I will set up a college at Oxford Street in London. I set up a college, called it Oxford House College. And this college grew up very rapidly. In 2 years, I was the largest college teaching English, computer, and teachers training in London. This college set up in 1978. And still, this college in London, Oxford Street, is one of the largest college. I feel sometimes like this is my child. I set it up from nothing, made me a multimillionaire, and still running.
Well, thank you for sharing that defining moment, Dr. Kent. Well, let's move on to the topic today, the melting pot of cultures. How have you experienced the melting pot of cultures?
I am an Anatolian son. I grew up in that culture. And I want to do something for Anatolia. Above everything, also to show people, to share with the people, the Anatolian history, culture, anonymous music, and folk dances. I believe this is very, very interesting. Anatolia is cradle of civilization. It is the oldest melting pot in the world. It is in the middle of 3 continents. It is like a bridge between the continents. That created a very old melting pot because many armies, many people walk through these bridges and left their remnants, left their culture, left their food, left their folk dances on this land. Not only culture, food, folk dances, also they left their DNA in Anatolia. Today, if you go to Turkey, Anatolia is an ancient name for Turkey. It is coming from word Anatoli. In Greek means the place where the sun rises. Since 1920s, it is called Turkey. But another interesting of this melting pot is the people. You cannot tell in Turkey who is Turkish, what is the typical Turkish people. Because so many ethnic minorities melted together there. Some people look as blonde as Scandinavian. Some look as dark as, with curly hair, Egyptian. Some people Mediterranean. all different looking people. This is very exciting. This is very interesting. Historically also, it is very interesting. These things made me to do something about it. Also, we men, we would like to have a child as well. Women have child with their womb. Don't get me wrong. They could also have child with their mind, like us. We men, we have our mind, head. We want to have a child with our head as well. I had one child, Oxford House College. I set it up 29, 30 years ago. It is my baby, still in operation at Oxford Street. Now I want to have another child, and I am going to call it the Heart of Anatolia.
Dr. Kent, I know you've travelled quite extensively. How have you experienced the melting pot of cultures in other parts of the world?
One of the experiences in my life I saw, I was in South Korea, invited to a family's meal. One man came from outside, and the gentleman sitting next to me said something in Korean, and a translator next to me explained, saying that he is a very poor man. He didn't look poor to me. His clothes was quite expensive. And after he talked about his life, and I learned from the translator, he was a wealthy businessman. Then I asked the translator, asked this gentleman, why he said he's a poor man, he's quite a wealthy man. And his answer was, because he has got only money. To me, that was surprising, because the Western culture, the Middle Eastern culture I had, anybody has got money is not poor. Then I asked as well, who is the rich man? Then he tried to explain to me as well, the one in society everybody respect, the one who helps the other people. This is the type of people we call rich people, not the one only has got money. This was interesting for me. Then I realized probably one day I should go to China or Japan, etc. Have more Eastern culture. I have Middle Eastern culture. I have Western culture, but I still don't have Eastern culture. I realized it's important to have as many cultures as possible. When I came to this country, of course, immediately many things was very different to me. For example, I was living in a house in one of the rooms and paying my weekly rent. And one day when I was talking to the landlady, she said, my daughter Marilyn also pays weekly rent. And I was so shocked. How come a daughter of the house pays rent? Then she explained to me that we are now wealthy. Without telling Marilyn, we put this money into the bank. One day when Marilyn leaves the home, we will give this money to her to buy a house or flat or something. If she spends all the money she is earning now, when she leaves the home, she will find difficulty in life. And also, I looked that they are sending their old people to the old people's house. This was also very different to me as well. When someone is old, not well, the children looks after their mothers and fathers. You don't send them to the old people's house. That is their house. You look after them. That was also a very striking difference to me. Another things I found, in Turkey, we boys used to go out together. We used to enjoy each other's company. In here, when two boys continuously used to go out together, And in the area I lived, landlady used to look, saying, these two boys must be homosexual. To us, it was very unusual, two boys, two girls, to go out together and enjoy each other's company. And homosexuality never came into it. Few things like this was different to me.
It sounds very wonderful growing up in a melting pot of cultures, but what are the benefits of being in that environment, in this melting pot of cultures?
Every culture is a brainwashing. You're born in this country, rule Britannia, Britannia rules the world. You're born in Germany, Deutschland über alles. You're born in Turkey, ne mutlu Türk'üm diyene, meaning I'm great to be Turk. Therefore, you don't realize that you have been brainwashed unless you mix with another culture. You see, when we're born, we are like a blank paper. The color, quality, etc. of the paper is determined by DNA. Afterwards, whatever stamp we get on this paper makes us that human being. We cannot change that DNA, it is already there. But culture could be very different. Someone born in Greece, mostly Christian, immediately a Christian stamp on their paper. Someone born in Turkey, more than 99% is Muslim, and the Muslim stamp is on their paper. History, the teachers, father, mother, continuously putting stamp on that paper. Now, when these two people meet, just like two papers with different stamps, that different stamp is problem for the world's peace and security.
By stamps, you mean like a nationality? Like you were saying earlier, I'm proud to be British, proud to be German, proud to be Turkish?
Nationality as well is part of that stamp. Because this brainwashing earlier on I mentioned is the source of these differences. Nationality in itself probably is not all that bad. But fascism, bringing that one to extreme, creates more problem.
So based on these experiences, how would you prescribe a solution to communities where there is a conflict? For example, in the Middle East, where in Israel and Palestine, those two communities, two different cultures, are finding it difficult to reconcile. What would you offer as a solution to them?
I've been interested with this subject more than 50 years. And to my mind, I have a solution how to solve this problem. You see, in the world, there are many places with swamps. Palestine is a swamp. What grows in swamp is mosquitoes. In the old days, mosquitoes used to stay in there where they were swamp. Now, mosquitoes flies. They fly to America. They have bombs here and there, blow up the World Trade Center. And sometimes even these mosquitoes, when they found a ground, they start growing in different places as well. Now, the best solution is to go to those swamps and dry up the swamps. Because you cannot always kill the mosquitoes flying or put them into prison. You have to go to the center where the mosquitoes are growing. As long as you don't dry those swamps, mosquitoes will grow. My solution for the Middle East is this. First of all, any terrorist today you catch, first word comes from their mouth is Palestine. That means there is a problem there. That means Palestine is a swamp. And Israel is living next to it or inside that swamp, will punish most. 50 years, more than 50 years, Israel have got problems. Why? Because it is living next to a swamp. Jerusalem, when it becomes that problem, is more than 2,000 years problem. Millions and millions of people died for the issue of Jerusalem. So many crusaders gone there. So many people killed. What for? Religious places in Jerusalem. In order to solve this problem, we have to set up an international, interreligious state of Jerusalem. During the Oslo Agreement, Palestinians and Israelis more or less was getting on an agreement, but they couldn't divide Jerusalem. I hope at that time somebody will say, look, also we are Christians. There are many religious places in Jerusalem which is important for us. What about for Christians? That is the reason I think there should be a triumvirate, three religious leaders ruling Jerusalem with its own airport. So anybody, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, wants to go to Jerusalem to visit those holy places, they should fly there independently and then go and visit those places. 2,000 years, so many lives lost there because of these religious places. I think that is one of the solutions today. To solve this problem, I think America and England should leave Iraq, go and occupy Palestine, set up a Palestinian state, neutralize all the terrorist elements, and have a green line between Israel and Palestine.
Peace forces positioned along
Peaceful
the green line.
along the green line, and Americans should leave, and British should guide this green line, as it is in Cyprus between the Greeks and Turks.
So by swamps, because you use this analogy of swamps and mosquitoes, you simply mean a breeding ground for terrorists.
For terrorists. Some people call that freedom fighters, some people call terrorists. To my definition, anybody who kills innocent people is terrorist. It could be a person, it could be a society, even it could be a government. If they kill innocent people, they are terrorists, in my definition.
Dr. Kent, you mentioned earlier about Cyprus and how the British are maintaining a peace force there, and obviously that's related to the tension between the Turkish and the Greek communities. Can you tell us a bit more about the roots of that conflict and also how it was actually later resolved?
Cyprus is part of this problem between Turks and Greeks. There is animosity between Greeks and Turks 1,000 years. So that is quite sometimes. And Turks came from Middle Asia and occupied Anatolia. And Greeks very much resent still, looking to the history.
So the Greeks were already there in Anatolia,
Greeks was already there.
And then the Turks came from Middle Asia and invaded the land.
Yes, occupied Anatolia.
So it's been an issue of land.
Land, but a land issue. At the same time, religion is the dividing factor. If they would have the same religion, they would say, look, we are all Christian, we are living on Anatolia, and then what's the difference? But religion is the cause of these things. But of course, Greeks looks more than religion. They look for Turks came from Middle Asia, invaded Anatolia, which it was their land once, but that was so 1,000 years ago. So quite some times. If it's not 1,000, let's say Ottoman Empire set up in 1299. Till that time, it was mainly Greek or Romans land.
And how has that now been resolved, or has it actually really been resolved?
Problem is still there. Not even only Cyprus issue, there is Asian issue. The historical things is already there. And Greeks, mainly Greeks feel more against the Turks than the Turks feel against the Greeks. I think that is the fact. And still animosity is there 1,000 years.
So in this melting pot of cultures, there's already a tension within the land. So what are your thoughts about the prospect of Turkey becoming part of an even bigger pot, that is Europe, by joining the EU, the European community?
Turkey very much would like to join to the European Economic Community. Problems with Turkey. Turkey is a more than 99% Muslim country. European Economic Community is like a Christian club. They differentiate. History also doesn't look so favorable to the Turkish side. But Turkey is not a religiously strong extremist country. Turkey is quite mild, young generation, and could contribute a lot to the European Economic Community. Political things, religious background, etc., is affecting Turkey joining to the European Economic Community. But on a long term, Turkey can contribute a lot to the European Economic Community. Discussions are still going on, but still that two big differences is not resolved.
And finally, Dr. Kent, can you tell us about this play you have in production, the musical, The Heart of Anatolia, and why that means so much to you?
First act of my show is Noah's Ark, which is landed according to the Genesis in Mount Ararat, which is in eastern part of Anatolia.
So you will tell the chronological history of Anatolia through these different acts. So starting with Noah, then going afterwards into the Hittite Empire. And it happened in Anatolia, in the center of Anatolia. Set up that empire 1700 BC till 1200 BC. This empire was very interesting as well. They made, for example, law, very interesting law. First time, royal succession law set up during the Hittites. For example, it was saying, when the king dies, first wife's son will be the king. If there is no heir, second wife's first son will be the king. If still there is no heir to the crown, then the first wife's daughter's husband will be the king. First time we see the royal succession. Very interesting. They also had first time a royal parliament called Panku. First time they had a royal parliament. It was so interesting, Hittites period. The next act
Helen in Troy, that happened in Eastern Anatolia. I'm sure many people are aware through the films. The one after, Antony and Cleopatra, they met in southern Anatolia. They had very interesting life there. After Antony and Cleopatra, there is another act which is called Richard the Lionheart and Saladin the Compassionate. That's a story more or less of the Third Crusaders. In First Crusaders, Christians occupied Jerusalem, and they killed all the Jews and Muslims. The streets were flowing with blood. Afterwards, Saladin the Compassionate, he was a Kurdish in origin, occupied Jerusalem and didn't order nobody should touch anybody, and also all the streets to be washed with rose water. He was a forgiving man. That's what British historians call him, Saladin the Compassionate. Their relationship with Richard the Lionheart was very interesting. Both of them appreciate each other. Richard was a warrior, but Saladin was a religious man, but at the same time very compassionate, very forgiving man. Richard, at the end, hasn't managed to get Jerusalem, and he tried a political maneuver to have Jerusalem by offering his sister Joanna, she was the queen of Sicily, to Saladin's brother Al-Adel. They were nearly getting married, but Pope objected. Pope said a queen, which she was a queen of Sicily, cannot marry to a Muslim. Otherwise, probably both of them would marry and become king and the queen of Jerusalem, and probably there wouldn't be more crusaders.
So the Christian and the Muslim worlds would have joined together in marriage. Maybe that's a solution for the future.
We hope so. The one after is very interesting, Rumi. It is called Mevlana Celaleddin Rumi. Many people know this one as whirling dervishes. Rumi was a mystic philosopher. He was a man of peace. At his time, there was in Anatolia Christians, Jews, Muslims, all religious people there in a city called Konya. He grew up in this atmosphere, and he reached peaceful coexistence together with every people. And one of his saying, for example, come, whoever you are. You could be unbeliever, you could be different religions, different sect, different upbringing, different commitments. Whoever you are, I forgive you, come with me.
And he was the founder of
He was the founder of this Sufism, a religious sect, which in this country there are many followers.
So that all began in Anatolia?
In Anatolia, in the center of Anatolia. It all began in Anatolia.
And then what happened next?
The next one is Ottoman Empire, a little show. Just before the Ottoman Empire sets up, my musical finishes. On that one, a Greek or Byzantium princess has been kidnapped, and more or less her life story, how she was a Byzantine princess once, and then she became an Ottoman, and her life, how much it has changed. That's also a very interesting story.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Kent, for coming and sharing today. We look forward to seeing your musical on stage in the future.
Pleasure.
You've been watching The Defining Moment for Creating the Culture of Conscience. If you'd like to find out more, we're on the web at www.definingmoment.eu. Thank you for watching, and we wish you all the best.